Hey, we're going to talk about some true crime today. Also, the bugs are going kind of nuts. Also the birds, so if you hear that, try not to. Today's case was the oldest cold case homicide in Gresham, Oregon's history. This is the story of Barbara Tucker and the curious way her murder was finally solved. I'm Cassie. I do a lot of true crime and unsolved mysteries. If that sounds of interest to you, I hope you stick around. In 1980, Barbara, or Barbie, as her friends and family called her, was a 19-year-old business student at Mount Hood Community College. She was described as outgoing, smart, and a free spirit. One friend stated she was a goofball. She was the baby of her family, despite being nearly 6 feet tall. On January 15th, 1980, Barbara would head to her night class at college. If her class got out early, she had plans to meet with one of her girlfriends for ice cream at her apartment. Unfortunately, Barbara would never arrive at her friend's apartment. That evening, several witnesses driving near the Mount Hood campus saw a woman running from the wooded area nearby and waving her arms. One witness even stated she was covered in mud and blood. No one stopped or even called the police. Of course, at this time, there were no cell phones, but there's nobody that even went home and made a phone call. Witnesses even reported that they had to swerve to avoid from hitting her. A witness also saw a man come out of the bushes and bring her back to the wooded area by her arm. Still, no one stopped. Later on, some witnesses said they thought it was a college prank or a youthful game of dodging traffic. I can only imagine her fear and desperation as cars were passing her. On the morning of January 16th, 1980, a group of students would find Barbara's body in the same wooded area next to the college campus parking lot. Barbara had suffered blunt force trauma after being kidnapped, beaten, and sexually assaulted. Her belongings were found nearby. At this point, the case went cold, and her family was left desperate for answers. In the year 2000, a DNA profile was able to be made from the DNA that was vaginally swabbed during Barbara's autopsy. This profile would prove to be key in Barbara's case being solved, but it would take several more years before DNA technology would be advanced enough. In 2021, a company, Parabon Nanolabs, which I've brought up before in previous videos, tried to find possible matches to the DNA found on Barbara. A direct match was not found, and a test to predict physical traits was done. This test is called a snapshot phenotype prediction. This led the genealogist, C.C. Moore, to distant relatives of the DNA found. World War II draft record cards had shown men sharing DNA with the suspect having red hair. The prediction was the man who sexually assaulted Barbara and killed her had red hair. C.C. Moore was then able to trace the family tree, following the red hair genes to Oregon. In March 2021, a likely suspect was named, but a DNA test would need to be done to be sure. The investigators began surveilling the suspect, a 60-year-old man named Robert Plimpton. He was an out-of-work river guide, and he had been living in the Troutdale, Oregon area for many years. While they were watching Robert, detectives saw him spit out a piece of gum on the sidewalk. This gum was taken by the police and tested against the DNA found during Barbara's autopsy. It was a match. Robert was arrested in June of 2021. Robert had been living in Troutdale, Oregon, with his wife, and they had a son together. At the time of Barbara's murder, Robert would have been a 16-year-old high school student. Despite this, he was still tried as an adult. And rightfully so, in my opinion. Robert has a nasty criminal history. This includes a kidnapping in 1985 where he served 30 months in prison. He went to prison again 2 more times between 1993 and 1997 for DUI and parole violations. In 97, he was accused of sodomy and assault on a woman, but the evidence was found to be insufficient. So, pretty much a giant creep. Robert pled not guilty to Barbara's murder, but was convicted of first-degree murder in March of 2024. The prosecutors didn't have enough proof the abuse occurred before Barbara died, so he was not convicted of the sexual assault or rape charge. Robert's wife, Lisa, stated about his arrest that it was a shock and out of character, mentioning his sobriety over the last 25 years. She and Robert were in high school together when Barbara's murder took place. That leads me to believe she must have known about his criminal record at least before he was recently arrested, making this crime, in my opinion, fully in his character. But maybe she didn't know. They were married as of his arrest in 2021, but current status is unknown. Robert was due to be sentenced a few days ago on June 21st, 2024, but at this time, I could not find public record of his sentence. He plans to appeal. Barbara's sisters, Alice and Susan, were able to testify for Barbara. Their parents had died many years earlier, never knowing who killed their daughter. Barbara's mother had kept written records, trying to answer her questions about the murder. Her father died in 1989 and would leave the room when she was talked about. Barbara didn't deserve this, and neither did her family. And I hope they find peace. Thank you for sticking with me, and I hope to see you again sometime. Bye.